Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and today it is time for a professional match of Zerg versus Protoss. Spawning here on the left-hand side of Black Baroque and playing with the red Zerg drones. We are currently looking inside of the main base of Impact. And his opponent spawning here on the right-hand side, playing with the pretty pink Protoss probes. Ooh, there we have it, a little bit of alliteration right here on the early Monday morning. We have none other than Zest. So, as some of you may have already noticed, Black Baroque, that's not a map that I've ever casted a game on before. And the reason for that is that this game was played as part of the Team Liquid map contest. It's a map contest that gets held every once in a while, I think it's a couple times a year, where they basically go over a whole lot of maps that people have created. They let pro gamers play on them after a couple of rounds, and usually it determines what the next ladder map pool is going to look like in StarCraft 2. Now, this game in particular, all of the matches from the TLMC were casted by Wardy. He went out of his way to go ahead and recommend this game for me, so I'm excited to figure out what it's all about. But this map in particular does seem pretty interesting. I did do a quick little scan around before starting up this cast. It looks pretty standard. The main is large enough. The natural seems pretty good as well. The only thing that I immediately noticed is that this ramp over here seems a little wide. So usually if a map has a natural that's bigger than 3 Protoss structures the size of a gateway, it becomes very difficult for Terran and Protoss players alike to wall off properly, in particular against Zerg. I mean, Zerg obviously can play hyper aggressively. Judging by the fact that Impact is already going for his 3rd hatch, I don't think that's the case in this particular match, but just because the option is there if a Zerg player wants to play hyper aggressive, it does usually become a little bit tricky for Protoss and Terran players to play on the map as well. And in my experience, whenever we had maps like that in the past, they turned out to be like a Zerg versus Zerg fest, just because it was only Zerg players really playing on those maps. Now, judging by the fact that Zest decided to go for the pylon inside of his main base as the very first one, I think that this may very well be a bit too wide of a ramp. 3rd base, 4th base, I guess this would be the 5th base. They do look pretty easy to take, and this does look, at the very least at first glance, like a pretty solid map, all things considered. Now, Zest is going for very quick warp gate, going for 2 Stalkers even here first, and he already has added on the robotics facility. So we have to keep an eye out on exactly what he's planning on doing. Obviously, Stargate openers are very common, in particular in, for example, the TLMC, when players are trying to figure out how good a map is. They will go with the most standard of the standard openers, and, you know, Stargate obviously is very, very strong all around. We'll see where this game is going to take us, as more gateways, I think, are going to come down. I mean, what else are you going to build right here? Maybe a Twilight? You don't really want to put that underneath the Overlord, though, right? It's already going to be a really quick prism, so, all right. Anyways, in the meantime, on the other side of the map, we see Impact obviously finishing up his 3rd hatchery. He started producing some additional queens right now. He's got Zergling speed coming up, and he is just getting himself as many drones as possible. He didn't even get himself any Zerglings. 0 Zerglings were produced here by Impact. This is not something I would recommend you play on the ladder, but obviously Impact and Zest will face off against each other very regularly. You might want to go ahead and do so if you are very familiar with your opponent. Now, I like this. You may be able to hear me smile. A little bit of Warp Prism aggression here in the early game by Zest. So, Warp Prisms, of course, very, very solid, but in particular, if you have the micro of Zest, there's no denying that the amount of value you can get out of it is absolutely ridiculous. He's going for gas right now. He's got himself for, I guess if you get a Warp Prism early enough, all your units get Blink, right? So even though you don't have Blink, your units still have Blink because you got a Prism. Anyways, there's a Sentry being warped in right now, and I'm not entirely sure what the follow-up is. Double gas? Or double Forge, rather? Alright, we'll have to see where this game is going to go. I have no idea what to expect from this. Regardless, we have 4 Stalkers inside of a plane here, so I think that indeed Zest is looking to at least pile on a little bit of pressure. Usually, whenever we see these kind of builds, it's going to be extremely gateway focused. He did actually decide to return all the way back home just to snipe that Overlord. It's a very curious decision making right there by Zest indeed, but whenever forges are planted down this early, usually it's going to be like continuously high aggression from a Protoss player. And he's actually going for shields as well as that attack upgrade. So that's kind of indicating to me that it might be Archon Zealot. There's something along those lines. Obviously, Archons do benefit hugely from having those shield upgrades. Regardless, the Prism made its way across the map, and it's not going to be Archons, it's not going to be Dark Templar, it's not going to be anything along those lines. It is just simply going to be a bunch of Stalkers that I guess can sit safely in the Prism, right? I mean, that's one thing we have to keep in mind here. Obviously, Blink is nice for maneuverability, but in the early game, obviously, Stalkers and Zerglings, you know, they don't really mix very well unless the Stalkers are flying. I mean, they are literally inside of a plane right now. So we'll see where this is going to go. Now, a bunch of Zerglings did make their way across. They will find out here that indeed the double pylon is going to be the name of the game here for the wall. Zest looking to go ahead and grab his third. He already did get himself the Archon, by the way. So the Archon, or rather the Immortal here, obviously still benefits a lot from the same upgrades as the Archon. But he is going to go for what seems to be a very ground-heavy focus for it now. Now, I have to say, I was a little skeptical when I first saw all of these Stalkers loading up into the Prism, but he's actually got himself quite a lot of kills already, right? That's 5 creep tumors. That's very substantial. And then obviously those 3 Overlords as well. That's just there to slow down Zerg. Well, I say slow down Zerg. If you look right now at the supply count though, Impact has not really been slowed down that much. He's got himself that Spire coming up here. He's got himself the 3rd base now, pretty much fully saturated. I think he's going to be able to do so with these 6 drones that are just about to finish up. So he is planning to go for some, I guess, Roach Ravager Zergling into Mutalisk play. This is something that needs to be scouted by Protoss, because obviously Mutas can deal a tremendous amount of damage. I guess just simply seeing the lack of a 4th base right now should already be a slight indication here for our Protoss player in pink. I love the micro though. So Zest is known as one of the most stable micro players in the world. He's very good at controlling his units. It is what makes him such a scary Protoss. But look, right? While he's doing all of this, and I like the aggression, I like the idea behind it. While he's doing all of this though, that 3rd base is very, very late. I mean, the 3rd base has been acquired. Impact knows about it right now as well. But look, for all we care right now, that's like 2 base economy, right? There's a couple additional probes here, but that's about it. Now, Zerglings are currently intercepting some of those units that are moving across the map. They did somehow, some way get split off right there in the center of it. I'm assuming there's going to be a warp in right here at home, or at the very least, 1 shield battery and 1 immortal. They should be more than enough, right? 1 sentry actually getting caught right there as well as a zealot, but for the moment here, Impact is just simply gonna be in a little bit of trouble because this army here for Protoss does not mess around. I also want to emphasize, while we see some corrosive balls going down, that these fortresses have never stopped upgrading. So we see continuously more and more upgrades here for our Protoss player. Great pickup control here so far by Zest in this engagement. He's also been throwing down some excellent force fields, dodging those corrosive balls like a champ, although finally it looks like Zerg is going to be able to start breaking through. That's a lot of corrosive balls, and indeed some of those Stalkers will be picked off. All of the Zerglings, by the way, at home were also dealt with. Zest going for a risky warp in there. He knows that he might get corrosive balled if he goes too far forward there with the Prism, but for now he is safe, and he's once again dodging as many of those biles as possible. Beautiful control so far by Zest, and it does look like he might be able to break through right now. Sniping some of those creep tumors as well, deliberately target firing them down. I guess that is here to... I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he's doing so just to get rid of some of those tumors so he can grab the 4th base here a little bit easier a little while later. I'm not entirely sure. For now, though, it looks like he's smelling blood. He wants to go for the victory right here, right now. That Spire, of course, spotted right now. And all of a sudden, all of these Roaches and Ravagers are finding themselves in a corner of the natural. Still, though, Zest is not slowing down just yet. Even though a lot of Zerg units are being picked off, and now drones are being killed here as well, but a very aggressive, what seemed to be 3-base push here. Oh, saving the Immortals there at the last possible second. But what seemed to be a 3-base push, what really was just a 2-base aggression. And look at the control! Look at the control! Look at the control of these Immortals! Look at the value of these Immortals! Oh my... Ooh, dude, they're so low! They're all so low! They're killing pretty much everything! Oh, he gets them out. He gets them out. There's a 4th Immortal that also badly wants to die, but I guess with him joining the fray, yeah. Now all of these, oh my god, they're getting their, oh my god, they're getting their shields back right now, so they're not done fighting just yet. +3 is started up right now. We see more and more Archons coming up here. Zealots joining the fray as well. However, what we gotta keep in mind, right? Yeah, Mutas can still come out. There's a couple of them right now, not that much, but they can be used, obviously, to snipe the Prism. They can also be used to counterattack and maybe kill some probes here. For now, though, Archons are going to be more than enough to deal with this, but I love this aggression here by Zest. By the way, I just want to emphasize, we've been seeing a fight basically non-stop for the last, like, what, 4 minutes? 3 minutes? Ooh, one Immortal there does go down, although he did certainly give his life for Ire there in the way that you're supposed to, right? That was beautiful control. Once again, man, that pickup micro is ridiculous. Ooh! Not losing that many of his units. How many Immortals actually have gone down? Only 2 Immortals, 1 Archon. Feels like these fights have been non-stop. A weaker Protoss would have lost pretty much everything, but I love this. Still though, if you look at the supply count, right? And that's where I'm starting to get a little bit anxious. If you look at the supply count, there's no denying that Impact has been happily mining more than his opponent. And sure, he's not trading very efficiently here, but he's still getting a lot of value. Well, this is where upgrades become really important, though. Sometimes Zerg players in these kind of scenarios look at the fight and like, huh, I can easily take that. And then they find themselves absolutely getting smashed by upgraded Stalkers. Still, though, Immortals are starting to go down right now, and Impact finally gets a little bit of breathing room. A second Warp Prism now also being created. I guess that's there to continue warping in, but also to continue microing even more. I think this is the point to maybe go Mutas if you want to. I think this is the position to switch into Mutalisk and maybe start harassing like the main base. Keep in mind, there's like no defense there whatsoever here for our Protoss player. Once again, picking up those Immortals just barely in the nick of time. And we've had literally like 5 minutes of fighting straight. Like, I mean, I guess there were like small little moments where we saw some Archons warping in and all that, but it's been non-stop aggression all this time already. Still though, I mean, I'm looking at this fight and I've seen it so many times before. I'm thinking that Zerg is going to be able to push through. But these upgrades, they don't mess around, okay? It's +1 missile versus +2/+2. That's very, very significant. And +3 is just about to finish here for Protoss. That means even though the army is much smaller, the units are much better. Plus the micro here is oh my, it's sublime. Look at that. He's like, normally Immortals can't chase, okay? Normally Immortals can't chase. Oh, he's baiting the Biles! Didn't work out in his favor that time, but he's baiting the Biles. But seriously though, like normally Immortals can't chase, but if you have the Prism control, like for example Zest has, you can certainly get that value that you're looking for. This is a very tense game. This is a very, very tense game. Fourth base though is happily mining here for Impact. Right? He's got himself a solid economy, and he still is up with 62 workers over only 47. And I know I'm hammering on that a lot, but this game is very much so a game of economy, okay? And eventually the main is going to start running low here for our Protoss, so he's going to be in a lot of trouble. That moment may very well be right now, as Zerg is smelling blood. They want to move forward, they want to get the kill, and the supply count here is pretty much double for Zest or for Impact right at this point in the game. Immortals, though, still inside of their ships. They're still flying around. They're like cannons. Oh, one of them there does end up getting picked off. But look, the main is going to start running very, very low here in just a little bit. Once again, incredible pickup micro here by Zest. His build is very weird, right? Opening up with 4 Stalkers in a Warp Prism. But he's transitioned towards a relatively normal mid-game, and he's been, I guess, transferring the excess amount of workers, now that his minerals are starting to run low in the main and the natural, towards the third. Once again, man, we have had fights. It's been non-stop fights for the majority of the game. I mean, Impact wants to close this one out. He's getting himself a Lurker den right now, which I like a lot. A couple Lurkers here can 100% change the tide of battle, although Archons and Immortals are still not terrible against that kind of unit composition. The pickup micro here in the Prism. Insane pickup micro here with the Prism. And it looks like somehow, some way, actually Zest is going to be able to hold. Is he going to be able to stabilize though? More and more Zerg reinforcements are coming in. We see the chasing right now on, once again, those Prism. Dude, the Prism. I've been saying for a long time, okay? People made fun of me in the comment section when I said that I think for Protoss, the Warp Prism is the strongest unit in the game. Seriously. Look how much value this has been given him for now. Like, it's been insane. Finally, by the way, we see Mutalisk coming up. I mean, I say finally, even though we did see a couple earlier, they didn't really count. That Zergling there, scouting out that indeed the Immortals are now stuck inside of that, in that plane, but of course, they're not going to be able to get away. I wonder if he should have maybe added on like a couple Corruptors earlier. I don't know though, because normally Protoss players don't get that much value out of the Warp Prism, and even though you can certainly still use the Corruptors after the fact. This has been an extended, like, 8-gate, 2-base all-in with a 3rd Nexus. Now, finally, we see Impact flying in for the counterattack, and I like this a lot. The thing is, though, we're 15 minutes into the game, and that main is certainly mined out. This will trigger Zest once again to go for the aggressive push. He's got a scary amount of units. They are at +3/+2, which is very substantial and much stronger than what his opponent has right now. Although he obviously is on a timer. These mutas are basically shutting down the economy, and I think this is what Zest has. This is his army, and this is what he's got a micro with. Now, he's been showing us some very stellar control so far. Can he keep it up right now? I mean, at some point in the game, the supply count was pretty much doubled by the Zerg. Obviously, that was Roach Ravager, but this control, man, it's absolutely ridiculous. Using Blink, using the Prism to pick up as many of those high-value targets as possible, and I think that somehow is a way Impact may be up with his back against the wall. Still, though, right now, those mutas have come home. The Prism is dead. There's still a couple Archons remaining. Keep in mind, there's Stalkers still as well, and I think that every single last of those flying Zerg units will get picked off. 41 probes ended up going down, and we see Impact tapping out there. No way. So, I was thinking that, I was thinking there that maybe I was a little too excited there for the strategy that Zest was playing, right? And then I looked at the supply count and I realized, oh, wait a second. I mean, Lowko, you're hyping up Zest a lot here, and I love the strategy, and I think the build is really cool, but Zerg still has twice the army value. And then you look a little while later, and it turns out, if your army is well upgraded, and you got the control of a god with a prism, you can get an awful lot of value out of your units and push over your opponent's army. That was really cool game there. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. A special shout out to the Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all of your generosity. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day, okay? Do not forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.